Hey, what's up guys, you got Crave here, and this is a quick video on some tips on how to go about Legion. Now, I know it might be a bit late given that it's a few days since launch, and yeah, but the thing is though, I had a friend outside the game who just recently purchased the game, and I think that sort of gave me the idea that maybe this video is not so useless. So you might find this very useful if you're just starting out, meaning you're in the lower level bracket of the leveling process, or you just recently purchased the game like my friend. So if you fall into either scenarios, or maybe if you're in the max level right now, you might be a bit confused on how to go about things, then this video is definitely for you. So for tip number one is to basically just go through the Broken Isles, really find everything you can do in the Broken Isles. And I've seen some posts on some people saying that they're in their fourth zone and they still are around 107 or 106, which is pretty strange if you actually think about it, because before I even entered my fourth zone, I was already pretty much close to max level. And but it's really important that you finish the different areas in the Broken Isles prior to reaching Surmar, and it's for a bunch of reasons. If you want to get the flying achievement pretty fast, when I don't know when Blizzard plans to release it, but when they do release it, you need your reputations eventually. So that's one thing to think about. And you also get a bunch of toys and companions as you're doing the quest, so it really makes it easier. And in addition, about the reputation, I forgot, if you do increase your reputation pretty fast, get to at least friendly or honored with the different factions, it opens up the emissary vendors, so you can purchase some gear once you reach max level. So it really makes the gearing process a whole lot easier if you're the type who has a whole lot of gold and you just want to be decked out even before entering dungeons, doing world quests and stuff like that. So they also give you the initial artifact relics for your artifact weapon, which is really important because more often than not, even if the artifact relics don't really give you the actual benefit that you need, it's the item level boost for your artifact weapons that really matters. So that's for tip number one. Make sure to just basically go through the whole of the Broken Isles. The second tip I can give is to realize that water walking is really important in Legion, and if you've at least gone through the first two levels of Legion, you're going to realize that yeah, it is really important. So if by chance you skip purchasing the Water Strider mount in Mists of Pandaria, and you had the capability to buy it, make sure you go back and get it. It's really useful even at max level. It's not just to avoid some areas while you're leveling. It's really going to be important as you reach max level. And if you don't have a way of getting the Water Strider mount, get the elixirs or get any other thing that really just helps you to walk on water. If you have a buddy who's a DK or a shaman who can grant you that ability, then make sure to maybe do some quests with them or do the world quests with them. It's really a pain sometimes just to go through content where you have to swim and all that. It's really it's a bad experience. But while we're at it, in terms of convenience of doing quests, I would also suggest just to get the Goblin Gliders to make it easier for you to do stuff, especially when you're in Stormheim or High Mountain. One example of that I can give is when you're doing the world quest for Shiralius, where he is located within Fellsoul Hold, which is at the lower part of the Soromar map. So what you can actually do is just fly all the way from Dalaran to Fellsoul, and it's really just easier to reach that boss for the world quest. So in terms of convenience, just make sure to do something, or find a way to have water walking. And also on the side, get the glider kit unless you're a DK or a mage. Tip number 3 is really just making sure you don't delay it, unlock your world quest. So which it's actually ties into the scouring or just going through the whole of the Broken Isles. And yes, of course, it does unlock the world quests, which give you gear, reputation, and all these things, these fancy things, artifact weapon boosts, power, rather, stuff like that. But the most important thing, and it might seem like a small thing, but it's really the Flight Master's whistle. It really just makes things extremely inconvenient when you're going through stuff in the Broken Isle. So as you know, that little thing just calls for the nearest flight master to pick you up, and it's really just useful that it's such a short CD of 5 minutes. By the time you finish whatever you wanted to do in a certain area in the Broken Isles, the cooldown is off, and you can basically call for flight master pickup. So yeah, besides the gear that you can get, the reputation, really in unlocking the world quest for Suramar, for the whole of the Broken Isles, really it's the flight master's whistle that matters. So make sure you unlock the emissary quest to get that whistle. The fourth tip I can give is to realize the importance of professions. And yeah, the thing is, unless you're the type who runs with a group and does group content to gear up, and that's the only thing you want to do, then professions are really important. And one of the things that paying attention to, why paying attention to your professions is important, is on the way to getting your Oblit Forge, which actually upgrades your crafted gear. There is one quest there called Trial by Failfire, and it requires, at this stage of the expansion, this early on in the expansion, it will require some crafted gear from different professions, tailoring, leatherworking, and blacksmithing. And if you go to your auction house right now, it's really expensive to get those bracers, those armbands, and all those stuff from the different professions. So if for some reason you have a profession that can craft one of the tailoring pieces, the leatherworking pieces, and the smithing pieces, then make sure that you do that. It's really expensive. Craft whatever you can. I'm sure you're pretty good if you're a leather worker, because you can craft 2 of the 4 required crafted pieces for the Trial by Failfire quest. But yeah, it's really important. And besides, professions, as I'm going through them right now at max level, it really just gives you a big boost in terms of gear. And to boost eventually, if you do it right, you will get your Oblit Forge and Blood of Sargeras, and all the stuff you'll need will just basically just flow in. So yeah, you can of course wait it out, but if you're sort of stuck somewhere later in the expansion in gearing, then the Oblit Forge will be useful, and hence the Trial by Failfire. So it's the stuff right now is really expensive. You can wait it out, but in case you might need it, you know, focus on your profession basically. Craft whatever you can for that specific quest, so that you can get your Oblit Forge a bit faster. And the 5th tip I can give is, it's important to realize this as you're leveling, or even if at your max level. Make sure to focus on your order hall objectives as soon as possible. And they basically, the order hall objectives really unlock character progression, which equates to artifact and gear. And if you stay committed, and it's really going to benefit you. I mean, unless you've got 12 to 16 hours a day to dedicate to the game, then it's really not good to switch to your off spec and just gear that. Unless of course you're the type who's also just willing to just chill all the way the expansion and switch back and forth between your 2 different specs for the same class, then that's fine. Of course, that's fine. But if you're the type who has to manage whatever playtime you can get for World of Warcraft, then yeah, make sure you're committed to one spec. I would suggest that if you want to go for a different spec, so you're not wasting your artifact power for your off spec, then it might even be better to simply just go with an entirely different class, like one of your alts. If you're tanking right now and you want to go DPS eventually, so as not to waste your artifact power, I would suggest leveling a different character entirely, and that would, you know, be also good in a sense, because you can sort of change your experience. You're not used to the same class, but the main purpose of working on an alt instead of going for your off spec is to basically not waste the artifact power you gain, so that you can focus on your main spec and make that main spec really powerful in terms of putting in more effort into the artifact weapon. And that's it. These are the 5 things that I think will help you get your head around Legion, and whether you're leveling, just starting out, or whatever, you just hit max level. So I hope you guys found this useful, and yeah, I think I'll end it here. I just want to go through other stuff in the game right now. Leave a like on your way out if you thought this was useful, and yeah, as always, thanks for watching.